Good afternoon, everybody. Lieutenant Mascoe, I'm the State H2F Coordinator for Kentucky. Today, we're going to be continuing our H2F educational piece, going over an H2F overview. So we're going to talk about holistic health and fitness, what it is, and how it applies to the Guard and to our dependents. As I said, I'm the State Coordinator for Kentucky. OC Eric Thomas is going to be the State MFT. Captain Jeremy Mullins is going to be the Registered Dietitian for Kentucky. And Second Lieutenant Britton Abshire is the Region 3 Coordinator. First, we're going to start off understanding what the problem is. So on any problem-solving model, Chief, I'm going to pick on you. What's going to be the first step of each the Army problem-solving model?
Just determine what a problem is or what the issue is.
Identify the problem. So to understand why we have H2F or holistic health and fitness, we're going to understand what the problem is. Now, this is recent data from the CDC website saying that in 2020, the obesity prevalence, meaning 41.9% of citizens between 2017 and 2020 were obese. That means almost half of the country was considered to be over 30% body fat. From 1999 to 2000 through 2017 through March 2020, it's increased from 30.5% to 41.9%. That means over the course of those 2 decades, it's went up approximately 11.9%. During the same time, it increased from 4.7% to 9.2%. This is in adults. Now for children and adolescents from ages 2 to 19 years old, in 2007 to 2020, 19.7%, which affected 14.7 million children. What does that mean for us? That means that as of 2017 through 2020, almost half of the adults in the country were considered obese, which is over 30% body fat, and approximately 19.7% of children under the age of 19 were considered obese. So we can say it's a big problem. Also, 12.7% among children 2 to 5 years old, 20.7% among children 6 to 18 years old, or 6 to 11 years old, and 22.2% among 12 to 19-year-olds. Go ahead. Okay, why H2F? We do have senior leaders in the room, so I'm going to ask for some participation. Since you've been in the Army throughout your course of your career, what has been the issues you've noticed with soldiers when associated with their readiness, along with issues that prevent them from being deployable, being ready? Chief?
Mostly medical issues.
What do those entail of, from your experience?
Just different type of medical problems that they haven't exposed. And then when you go to MOB site, then they get exposed.
Okay, so different unforeseen medical issues that weren't brought up till MOB site. What about soldiers who are flagged? What have you noticed has been the issue with that, or the primary cause?
As far as concerning deployment, you don't flag when it comes to fitness. They deploy, they still deploy, but they don't get any favorable actions, awards, and that kind of stuff.
Okay, let's go away from deployment and just readiness in general. So right now we have over 6,500 guards soldiers in the Kentucky Army National Guard. A percentage of them are flagged. For what reason?
Failure to pass PT test.
Or just failure to pass ACFT / height weight. There are other reasons, but the majority is probably going to be in that realm. Sergeant Major, from your experience, your short time in the military, what have you seen when it comes to readiness of our soldiers, along with new recruits coming in? What has been the biggest issue? Okay. Colonel Simpson, what in your career have you seen has been a big issue, not just in reference to deployments, but just readiness in general? Because as citizen soldiers, we have more than one duty. Okay, so going back to the previous slide. Hey, Abshire, can you switch back to the slide?
So it's funny, the statistics that you had up there, it went from 17 to March 20. Well, if you think about that, look at that date, that was all pre-COVID.
Yeah, so what we have noticed This is just in general the population of the United States. Why would this matter to us?
That's who we recruit from.
We recruit from them, correct? So if this says as of 2020, prior to COVID, we know that over the years it's increased, a steady increase. What is it right now? I don't have the previous numbers on the website, but I would assume it's higher than the 41.9% of adults right now. Probably closer to 50%. That means as of right now, over 50% of the population, which we know it's far more than that, just with other medical issues, criminal backgrounds, whatever it may be, we don't have a very big pool to pull from. And then looking at the second statistics down here with children, so if your child starts off obese, it's probably due to family history, maybe what they're provided, education level has something to do with obesity levels. It's been shown that those with lower education levels are more apt to be obese. Why? Because they just don't know what's right and what's wrong. So that being said, our next generation that's coming up that we can recruit from, they're already starting off behind the curb. They're already starting off at that unhealthy weight, which leads them to other issues. So that's what we're getting at. We identified the problem in the country. Now we're going to go over the problem in our force. And then from there we can identify why H2F came along. So this is statistics as from April of 2020. In active duty, 58,000 soldiers were non-deployable. This is, like Sergeant Major said, for various reasons. Medical, ABCP, not able to pass all the requirements to be deployable, but for some reason they're non-deployable. That's equivalent to 13 combat brigade teams. Would you say when it comes to a high op-tempo world where the drop of a dime, a conflict could kick off, that's probably a readiness issue or readiness concern? Saying that that many soldiers are not in the fight if we need them right away. About 7.8% of the U.S. military is considered overweight. It's about 1 in 13 troops. So thinking about how rapid we need to be deployable and what other issues come with being overweight. There's, of course, other reasons that they may be undeployable, but weight, as we already know, is a big issue. And it may stem from other issues. Could be resilience issues, could be their lifestyle habits, could be their diet. And we'll get into all that. As of FY21, the number of VA compensations was upwards of $105 billion for the year. Think about how much our national defense budget is every year. Think about how much it costs to run our current military. These are soldiers that have been hurt and they're receiving compensation for some sort of injury, some sort of event that happened, that they're not in the fight. And it's steadily increasing every single year. The number one injury in the U.S. military is musculoskeletal injuries. Who can tell me what that is?
That has to do with your body, just your bones or your muscles.
Of course. So broken bones, sprained ankles, torn muscles, anything to do with your structure that gets hurt. Over 50% of injuries include some sort of musculoskeletal injury. Any questions so far?
No, I want to go to your number 3 bullet there.
Go ahead, Sergeant Major.
So years.
You are. So this is going to include all the compensations from all the survivors from all the previous wars. It is. But the one question you're going to have to ask yourself is, and there may not be a statistic for it, how many of those injuries were avoidable? So if we know that most, it is, if we know that most of the injuries in the military are musculoskeletal injuries, you could probably take from that data that a majority of the claims may be musculoskeletal related. Now, I don't have the exact data on that, but that's the question. What have we done in the past to help to mitigate this number? I can't think of anything.
No, you're exactly right. It's going to take time before we get caught up.
Okay, so far what we've covered is what the issue is. The issue is that our country is sick. And a lot of it is weight related. And we recruit from that, but not only do we recruit from that number, what are our soldier family? It's part of that number. So if our soldiers' families are part of that number, do you think they're more than likely to be part of that number? You're more than likely going to reflect on, or your family's going to reflect on how you carry yourself. So why is H2F here? You already hit it on the head. Prevention is a reason. Also education. Prior to H2F, how much nutrition education has the military given the soldiers? That wasn't voluntary. How much sleep education have they given soldiers? What about, we already know they give, or we try to give plenty of resiliency or MRT. What about physical education when it comes to moving properly, being able to program or safely exercise, minus going to MFT school? I mean, there have been issues in the past, and H2F it's an answer. Is it the right answer? We don't know yet. It hasn't been around long enough. It's been around since 2018. We're still in the pilot phase, but we've identified a problem, and we're trying to come up with a solution for it. And this is the solution that we came up with. Any questions so far before we move on? I appreciate the participation. We're going to keep it going. Why are we focusing on being overweight? What are some risk factors of being overweight? We have type 2 diabetes, which is a causation of lack of physical activity and excess consumption of processed carbs and saturated fats. So every time you consume a carb, what happens to your blood sugar levels, blood glucose levels? They spike up. Say it loud and proud. They spike up. What does your body have to do after your blood glucose levels spike up? It has to produce insulin to bring it back down. And then what happens when you eat that next donut 5 minutes later? Spikes back up. What does your body have to do? Well, eventually, after doing that over and over again, your body is going to be less efficient at producing that insulin, which leads to type 2 diabetes, which is one of the leading CVDs in America and one of the leading causes for our medical expenses, along with early deaths. High blood pressure, another issue that involves diet and lack of exercise, along with stress. Who here has experienced stress in this line of profession or in general in life? Heart disease, stroke, sleep apnea, metabolic syndrome, osteoarthritis. So who thinks they can get out of bed and walk like they used to before they joined? Like your bones might hurt a little bit more, you might be a little bit stiffer, you might have less flexion in your joints. It's a causation. Some cancers, and a big one, depression. Out of your experience serving, how many soldiers have they experienced with some sort of depression? What do you think, from your experience or from your observation, were the causes of those depression? No answer is a bad answer. Okay, so it's a pretty simple answer. What about finances? Have you seen soldiers who have financial issues who get some sort of depression from that? Not being able to go to school with their friends because they're flagged for some reason. They don't have the proper education to maintain a healthy body weight. They don't know how to properly exercise. The gym intimidates them. So they just accept the fact in their mind that they're going to be like this, and they get depressed, they get down. They may not tell everyone about it, but it happens. And it leads to other issues. So these are all risk factors of being overweight, not only in the service, but in the country in general. So that's why we're focusing on these numbers, because these lead to a lot more issues than just being overall well. Next slide. So now that we know what the problem is, we're going to talk about why holistic health and fitness and what the purpose of it is. Now in Kentucky, we have the ACTS course. It's a 4-day wellness course designed to educate soldiers, run them through how to properly exercise, eat, sleep, go through all the domains of holistic health and fitness. It's also designed to help them find their why. So we have a lot of senior leaders in this room. Good audience for this question. What is the hardest part about leading or influencing a soldier? You give them all the tools they need, all the instructions they need. What is the hardest part about having them accomplish that task? Motivation, right? So what's another word for motivation? Or a stronger word? So whenever it's 3 o'clock on a Sunday, everyone wants to go home, and vehicles need to be PMCS, what do you tell your soldiers? PMCS those vehicles, we're going to go home, right? What did you do by doing that? You gave them a reason to act, correct? 100%. So you give them a reason to do something, correct? It benefits them. So what's the difference in you giving them a reason to get the PMCS done or you giving them the reason to live a holistically well lifestyle? Is there a difference? They may need a stronger reason to do this because they have to change their lifestyle. They have to change things that they've been doing, and change brings more stress into the life. Our bodies don't like stress, so what do? We rebel. So you tell someone who drinks 5 diet sodas a day to stop drinking diet sodas, do you think that's going to work? What do you start with? Maybe instead of 5, you start with 4, right? Once they get down to 4 diet sodas, let's go to 3. Compromise. So the hardest part is we give them all the tools they need to succeed, but we have to give them a reason to do it. That's why we never have 100% compliance, because you can't get everybody. But what I tell myself is if we inspire one person to change, we did our job.
Time and money.
Time and money. So it's up to, so everyone does, but I would say from my experience, everyone has different priorities. So one soldier may be more inspired by the fact that if he changes his lifestyle, it might transition to his family, and they'll be able to live longer, healthier, more quality lives.
So, more time and...
Yep. I like it. So, that being said, this is what we try and do in the ACTS course. It's not the only thing we do in Kentucky for H2F, but it's one step in the right direction. Go ahead. Chief, the answer to that is we would like to do 4.
Okay.
However, until we actually get like I said, we're still in the pilot phase. Money's still an issue. So we take what we can get these days. If we have the money to run 3, we'll run 3. If we have the money to run 1, we'll try and find more money to run another one, okay? It's another good point. So this isn't just for the soldiers at risk, the soldiers who are failing height weight, who need the information. Even your high performers. Like we go, whenever the Army National Guard endurance team and the marathon team compete, they have us go out there and actually teach them classes. They learn from us. They're competing at a high level, but guess what? They can always get better. Just because you score a 590 on the ACFT doesn't mean you can't get to 600. Same thing with the person who is scoring 300. They can definitely get to 400. So we're here to try and influence soldiers to be better regardless of where they are at the time. Now the H2F program is split up into 5 domains. We have mental readiness, sleep readiness, nutrition readiness, physical, and spiritual readiness. Who can tell me from just them looking at these why these are the 5 domains? How can you tell someone's holistic wellness in these 5 categories? Textbook answer, Chief, textbook answer. So we're going to go into our next point. So whenever you think of holistic wellness, you could probably add more categories. You could probably add financial. You could probably add relationships, how you are with your family. But regardless of how many categories you give them, if you can put any part of their life in one of these categories, it will work. Think of it like a table. So let's say you have a table. It's a really beautiful table. You have 5 legs on this table. If all the legs are equal size, distributed evenly across the table, is it going to be a sturdy table? If it's symmetrical, it looks just like this, it's going to be sturdy. Would you be confident putting your computer on the table? So I like that, Sergeant Major, but I was prepared for the table, so we might have to resort to that right now. So that being said, let's imagine each leg on the table is a different domain. I do like the video game. What happens if one of your legs shrinks? Let's say your spiritual goes down. You still have 4 legs, so it probably still stands pretty sturdy, right? Depends, right? Depends. But it's a little bit less stable than it was prior. What about if, because your spiritual lacks, your sleep starts to lack? You're down to 3 legs. What happens? Less structural sound, right? Do you think after a while of your spiritual, by spiritual we don't mean religious, we mean purpose. You live for something more than yourself. So your purpose, right? So they did a study where they took a control group of cancer patients. Like they are going to die, but it's just a matter of when. They took a group of atheists, those who did not believe in anything, and a group of those who had a higher belief. When it came down to it, after all of the control group from the atheists died, can you guess how many from the ones who believed in higher were dead? 0. So all the ones who did not believe in anything or have the will to think of something higher actually succumbed to their cancer prior to the ones who believed in a higher power, believed in something other than themselves. So the will to live and the purpose of living is a real thing in my opinion. Awesome. So we covered spiritual pretty good. It's not just about what you believe, it's about what you believe other than yourself. So family, friends, loved ones, whatever it may be. So some sort of purpose other than yourself. A reason to get up and do what you do every morning. So we use a table analogy. It's a good analogy. We'll try the video game one next time. So after that, we already summed it up. So you need all of these. They all work with each other. If one of these domains lack, the other ones are probably going to fall and lack a little bit. That doesn't mean just because we go to the field for 2 days and our nutrition and sleep hinder doesn't mean your entire table is going to collapse. Because it takes time. As long as you're doing the right thing, it takes time for it to collapse. So that is the purpose of the 5 domains. Let's go on next. Now we'll go into what does this mean to us. By us, we are talking about us in the Kentucky Army National Guard, along with the National Guard as a whole, along with the Armed Forces, everyone who's using H2F to try and better themselves or better their lives, which I would hope it would transition to our dependents, family members, those not in the service, and transition to co-workers and just spider web out. How can you implement domains into your lives? Chief, why do you choose to, do you exercise in the morning or evening, just at all?
I do.
You do? Okay. Why do you do that? Peace of mind. I like it. What about any of the other domains? Do you have any examples of why you implement or are more self-aware of those in your life? Perfect, perfect. Sergeant Major, why do you or your family try to live holistically well? What's the reason? What's your why? So I'm going to put you on the spot, Sergeant Major. You, being in the position you are, wearing that rank on your chest, did you go talk to new soldiers today? I saw it on Facebook, right? First formation. What do you think they think when they look at you whenever you're talking to them? What are they doing? I don't know, Sergeant Major. I can hear you talk all day and I don't get bored of it. So here's what I'm getting at. So you living a holistically well lifestyle, being State Sergeant Major of Kentucky, whenever you tell soldiers they should probably do the same thing, do you think they're more likely to take your advice if they see you're living the part? So as a leader, that's what we need to do. We need to not only live these for ourselves, but for those around us. What is our greatest tool in the U.S. military? Not a trick question. People, soldiers first, right? I feel like I've heard that term somewhere along the line. So our people, with all this expensive equipment we have, all these advanced HIMARS, Patriot missile systems, we spend a lot of money on that. But what about our soldiers? If we don't have soldiers to operate that equipment, what good is it? And on the other end, if our soldiers aren't overall well, let's say they are having issues at home because their family is having issues. I mean, if they're not all there, are they going to perform to the max capability that they're able to? So the idea of this is we try and live these domains for ourselves, not just for the fact that it affects us positively, but it'll affect those around you positively, including your family. Who wouldn't want more time with their family? Who wouldn't want more money? Being able to go to these schools, being able to have all these opportunities that they wouldn't if they were still flagged or barred. That education, that's one of the, in my opinion, one of the best educational benefits we have is getting our school paid for. I'm about to finish up my master's, I didn't pay a dime. I'm still trying to convince them to pay for my doctorate, but it's not working yet. And I don't think we're ever going to do that, but all we can do is get peace of mind knowing we did our best. Perfect. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through, we've already touched on each domain, but we're just going to go through them real quick. Physical readiness. Why is physical readiness up here? I know there's a stigma for the ACTS course saying that it is a fit camp, which means you're just going to go there and get physically punished the entire time. This in turn makes soldiers not want to come to this camp or course. However, if, like you said, Chief, you had a soldier who came and they liked it, right? They said it was good information. It's not all physical, but we can't ignore this because physically fit people are more resilient. They sleep better, they tend to eat better. Like all these things are better because you put more effort into this. And the amount of discipline you get from doing it, from getting up in the morning when you don't want to, walking that 5 miles, from going to the gym and rowing that 5K in the morning, it gives you something in your head that makes you know it's not that bad. I mean, you're able to accomplish these hard tasks, which sets you up for success in more hard tasks. So physical readiness, even though it's 20% of the domains, it's still important and it helps with the other ones. Go ahead. Mental readiness. We're going to argue this is probably one of the more important ones because to get yourself in the gym, you have to win the battle in your head first. What do you do, Chief, if you know you have to work out or go to the gym, but you really don't want to? Getting out of bed's kind of hard. You'd rather get the extra 20 minutes of sleep. What do you tell yourself? So I gather it's built in you guys, right? It's built in you that you got to get up and do something. Be productive. Programmed. Whenever I don't want to get up, which is actually more so than not these days, I think back to a time when I didn't go work out or I didn't do what I needed to do, and I know how that feels. Kind of feels defeating, right? So I don't want to feel that feeling. I know for a fact that me and Corey over here, we work out together all the time. And they always want to not do the finisher because they're tired from the workout. And I'm like, well, has anyone ever been disappointed doing the last part of the workout? The answer is no. It's hard during, but you're never disappointed after you do it. Never. Not in my experience. But are you going to be disappointed if you don't do it? More than likely, you probably will be. So that's a good story. Anyways, you need a reason to do it. And once you figure out that reason, that's all you have to do. This is why I need to do it, and just go up and do it. Plus, with the mental readiness, that's going to help you deal with stressors. Being in the Army in general, or just society in general, how many stressors do we have that come up? A lot, right? We could be getting ready for our holiday leave, then a flood comes. Then half the state is now activated on flood duty. Not saying this happened in the past year or so. Or a tornado comes through and knocks out counties. What do we have to do as citizen soldiers? We have to activate, take care of business. So all these stressors, all this tempo comes, And the more mentally resilient and capable we are of actually handling these stressors will help us not only in our mental domain, but help you in fighting those other domains. Whenever doubt comes in, you're capable of pushing through the doubt because you know it's going to be worth it in the end. Nutrition. It should be a given why nutrition is a domain for your holistic wellness, but Lieutenant Bainey, why is this up here? What's the purpose of nutrition?
Well, for me, it's a good way to keep accountability. There's a lot of ways to do the right thing.
Well, just in general, what's the purpose of nutrition?
To stay healthy, to beat malnutrition.
We're about to get there. Keep going.
To not be obese.
Who can help Lieutenant Bainey out? What's the purpose of food? Fuel. It fuels our body, right? So, who here likes cars? Name a fast car. A supercar.
I'll just go with the Ford GT like last night.
Oh my gosh. So if it gets past the starting line, we'll go with the Ford GT 500. Okay, Camaro. So would you put E85 fuel in a Camaro?
No.
Why not?
Just the octane. It doesn't have the right amount of fuel. I mean, to help it explode properly.
Okay, so
The way it burns.
if you do put E85 in there, do you think that car is going to run to its full potential? What about if you put race car fuel?
E89. If you did, obviously the better fuel, the more performance you're going to get out of this engine.
Do you think it's any different with our bodies?
Absolutely. No.
No difference, right? So what we put in our body, the more high quality fuel we put in there, the better performance. That's 100% what our body is, and that's what nutrition does for us. Being soldiers, if we have to go for a 48-hour ops to do missions, do you think if we're fueling our bodies properly, it'll help us get through those ops a little bit better? 100%. So proper fuel is going to help us not only perform better, but it'll help us think better. The fatigue will set in a little bit slower because you're fueling it correctly.
It's funny you bring that up because if you go to the chow hall, the dining facility, and I'm trying to remember the last one, I think probably a few years ago, Fort Rock and I went, and it had, so it was actually, and that's what they called it, the performance. So this food is a medium performance or moderate performance.
Yeah, they have the green, yellow, red.
The green and the yellow and the red. And it was just funny how they did that.
It is. I mean, I like the concept.
The last 3 or 4 years.
I would definitely argue with some of the labels they had. I don't think that imitation pork patty was a green fuel source, but yes, it's a good concept. And I like that the Army or the military is going in that direction. They're starting to recognize what we feel, how we fuel our soldiers is going to affect their performance. So that's why it's a domain, because it affects how we live, how healthy we are, how we're able to perform. Sleep. Now, we can sum up the importance of sleep pretty quick, but let's get something from the crowd. Who do I pick? Corey.
Okay.
What is the importance of sleep?
It's very important to make sure that your body is rested and ready to go for the next day.
Go deeper, go deeper. What does sleep do for us?
It resets not only your body, but your mental also.
What else?
I don't know.
Swear it's not a trick question.
I don't know. I got some numbers negative.
I'll help you. It keeps you alive. If you don't sleep, how long do you think you're going to stay alive?
Not very long.
Maybe days. I think they did a study where someone was sleep deprived for up to a week, but they had a complete psychological breakdown within that week. So sleeping keeps us alive. If we don't sleep, we will not live. We do have different stages of sleep. We have REM sleep, rapid eye movement, which cognitively restores our bodies. So we need that to remember what we did the day prior, to make us feel refreshed in the morning, to kind of reset our mental acuity. We have deep sleep, which repairs muscle tissue, repairs body, heals injuries. If you were to get a cut on your leg and you don't sleep, do you think that wound is going to heal? It won't. It won't repair itself. It only repairs itself during that deep sleep. And we have awake and we have light sleep, which is kind of the cycle. It just goes through these cycles or these sleep waves all night long. So sleep is super important, and the more we sleep, the quicker we'll heal, the quicker our muscles will recover, the quicker we'll be mentally replenished. So if you're walking around tired all day, you're probably not getting the quality sleep you need. Go ahead. We touched on this pretty in depth in the beginning. Spiritual readiness. So we're going to go with this is something more than yourself. So you believe in something other than yourself. You live for something other than just yourself. You have purpose. You have will. You have a reason. This is everything else that doesn't fall in those other categories. I'll put social in here. Maybe financial, if not in mental. So this is everything else. Go ahead. Perfect. So we already mentioned what the problem is, correct? The problem is that we're in a society these days of just illness, overweight. There's lots of disease, lots of money is being spent to combat this problem, but not a lot of money is being spent to prevent the problem or educate the problem. So that's what H2F is here for. We know that there's a readiness issue. Soldiers aren't as capable as they can be. So being a leader, we're here to set the example. Try and influence these soldiers or reflect on these soldiers of why we do it and help them discover their why. That's the hardest part about being a leader, is influencing someone to do something. Okay, so see if I can, hopefully we can hear it from my laptop. What we're going to do, we're going to play a quick 3-minute video. This will be available on Facebook Live afterwards for everyone on the stream. But this is just going to be a video of some soldiers who have been touched or have been positively affected by our ACTS program. This isn't all the soldiers I'm going to iterate. This is just some of them. There's going to be more and more of these the more courses we do. But you tell me at the end whether it's worth the money and the resources.
Major Charles Brannon from the 149th MIB. When I was on the ACTS course originally, my blood pressure was running high, was on some medications, so I'm off the medications now. I'm working on my blood pressure and cholesterol and all that stuff because it was all out of whack, so eating better helps that. I try to have a good sleep regimen where I didn't before, on my phone at night, checking emails and all that stuff right up to bedtime. Wasn't sleeping well, so that's the education I got while I was at the ACTS course just kind of started me on the right path. Even though you know what the right path, sometimes you just need a kind of a wake-up call to get you kick-started in the right direction, and that was what holistic health and fitness did for me when I attended the course.
I'm Specialist Mackenzie Klein from the 617th. So for me personally, I struggle with depression and insomnia, and getting to have a class over how much fitness and wellness can affect our sleep and our overall health, I noticed a big change just implementing a lot of the things that I was taught, just in my overall attitude and how I felt in a day-to-day basis and how I was sleeping, and that's a big thing for me. I had failed 3 different APFTs, and then I failed 2 of the ACFTs. And then after ACTS course, I came back and passed my first ACFT. So I went from not passing PT, not even close, and now I have a BLC slot, and I've been working towards that for a long time.
I do believe this training is very important as far as spreading the expectation of what we want from our soldiers, and then also changing the culture to help younger soldiers understand what's available for them to keep their fitness on track.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for anybody that's already doing really well in health and fitness. But if you need a kickstart, this is definitely a great course to get you started off in the right direction. At least you have contacts and stuff like that. They give you a baseline, give you a regimen, you have people to reach out to. But it gets you mentally spiritually ready to go. And I think that's that's a barrier for a lot of people is, they want to get started, they just don't know where to start. And this course gives you a place to start.
I can honestly say it's an amazing course. I've told everybody in my unit about it, and I plan to go back for as many years as they'll let me. I learned a whole lot.
This needs to go down to the units, and it needs to go as quickly as possible. This is something that every unit can utilize, and it doesn't matter how good a shape their guys are in. This is something that every unit will benefit from.